there, right? People have to flush their toilet. If you use less water for every flush, you're guaranteed to save water, right? Very easy equation to do. With products like ours, and they were like, well, we don't know, because I was, they spend millions of dollars a year subsidizing ultra low flow toilets, like in rebates and things like that. And I said, hey, why don't you give us a rebate? Like we can help, because at the end of the day, a low flow or a high flow toilet, they still have leaks.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They all develop the same problem, because fundamentally, going back to like what we talked about earlier, you have plastic parts submerged in water, and that water is generally like hard water that has contaminants in there.
And at the end of the day, you need to see the data on what's being used, even if they are low flow. Are they working correctly?
Exactly. And even some of the data actually suggests that people flush twice on a low flow, because they're just not happy with the performance of the of what it did, right? So you end up using 2 flushes, which is more than what you would have used in a 1.6 flush, right? So I've had conversations with them. I think, unfortunately, I think like many large government agencies, there just needs to be a lot of data for them to be able to come on board. They don't generally like to take these like abstract kind of thoughts, which is kind of a little bit more this new wave of IoT devices and things like that. This is kind of, it's not widely adopted just yet, right? There's a lot of people, if you have like a Nest thermostat, it's an IoT device, for instance.
Oh, okay.
If you have light bulbs that you can use your iPhone or Android to turn on and off, those are IoT devices. And so we're slowly getting to this idea that like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can use this data to make my life more efficient, right? And I think water is one of those areas where there hasn't really been too much innovation there. And so I'm hoping, again, I think part of that is because it's been so cheap. Mm-hmm. And I think as water gets more scarce and as it gets more expensive, right? I mean, San Diego alone in 2018, they announced incremental rate hikes over the next 4 years and for over 35%. Water rates in California have nearly doubled. And so as things get more expensive, now we're starting to see more innovations in that field.
Yeah, because there's a problem.
There's a problem, and it's getting expensive, and now there's money to be made in that solution. And like I said, I think you always have to have some level of a financial gain for the customer in order for them to kind of take hard-earned dollars out of their pocket and give them to you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I like the device. I like the idea of what that's doing, because it's like you said, it's one of those things where we don't ever think about it. Mm-mm. I mean, sometimes I think about, man, we're wasting a lot of water. Yeah. But even then, that's in the back of my mind, you know. And with the whole environmental crisis going on, I like recently I've been doing a lot of reporting on like the ocean cleanup. I don't know if you've heard them. Mm-hmm. It's like this almost a startup up in the Bay Area. Okay. This guy he's Dutch, and he created this boom system, this floating boom system with 2 buoys on the end, and it creates almost like a U shape with a 10-foot net that underneath can catch even like the microscopic plastics.
That's cool.
And for the first time, actually, this past month, that boom system has made it to the Great Garbage Patch.
Yeah, in the Pacific. Yeah,
and it's collected some trash from there.
That's awesome.
So it's stuff like that I really like. Anything that's helping the environment, because dude, there's just so much plastic use,
and I think there's always, as much as I say like it has to be a financial motivation, there's always just good people out there too.
Oh yeah,
right.
Sure,
and there may not be any money, and I think for us the same, right? There's not as much money in this versus like the amount of help that we can do, but we still push forward because we believe that water conservation is important, right? And at the end of the day, as a California resident, a San Diego resident, it's important for me.
Yeah, and I think people get too hung up on the fact that a company is making money, like it's not fair, or they're doing something good, but what about all the terrible things that they've done? Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, we can do that too, but this is still good. Like that doesn't change the fact that I'm not a like I said before, I'm not opposed to people making money and helping the environment, or finding a solution and making money off of that solution. It's not a bad thing. I mean, that's
and I think anytime you I don't think any one company is always good or always bad. And I think just that word always, right, is you gotta have to kind of remove that from your vocabulary, because they do some good and they do some bad, and I think everybody does that, right? And hopefully the good outweighs the bad, right? Right at the end of the day. But I think there's a lot more to it than just one news article that comes out. There's way more to every story, and I think you have to research all of that in order to have the right opinion, or at least an educated opinion. So,
what's the next goal for your company, or the next innovation, or the 2.0, or whatever it is, the future?
So right now we are, we're looking at some new optimizations that we want to make to allow us to get into some other industries like agriculture and oil and gas and things like that. I think, we have our solution, is ultimately this battery operated platform that you can connect any kind of sensor to detect stuff, right? So right now we connect a water flow sensor to it, but we can take that same technology and adapt it to agriculture, right? And help, whatever, a winery or whatever kind of get better at using their water, because again, that water is an expense for them. And to do that, we're looking at doing stuff like moving over to kind of like a cellular module instead of using Wi-Fi, and also kind of looking at doing some things with, it's called mesh technology, where you essentially have like all the devices kind of communicate with one another, and then one device acts like a hub and sends all the information up to the cloud, right? Nice. So you kind of have like all these devices communicate with one another. But again, all of this is in the context of wanting to, build a solution that really works. Because I think ultimately, like I said, our goal is to save. And if we can save that resource, right, whether it's water, whether it's, oil, gas, whatever, right, we can do a better job of providing that value back to our customers, right?
Yeah, getting the most bang for your buck.
Right. And I think just in general, right, anytime you're wasting something, right, it's never a good thing, right? And sometimes, like even in like I said, oil and gas, wasting oil could be an environmental like catastrophe, right? And sure. We've seen this. And so if we can get our device to the point where we can kind of get better at monitoring some of these things, I think that's kind of our next kind of growth goal. In addition to kind of just getting more customers, I think that's always kind of a part of any business, is you kind of have your core business that you're kind of always trying to like maintain and grow. And then you kind of have a couple feelers out that are doing some more like exploratory stuff, but that can all of a sudden open up a brand new vertical for you that you were never planning on. And all of a sudden like a whole new revenue stream and a whole new kind of that. And again, like I said, I think it's always a challenge to balance. How do you manage the resources of your business? How do you manage the resources of your employees and kind of grow, but organically grow? Because I think that's a big kind of core ideology of mine is you organically grow. It's better because you have to kind of learn the steps along the way. Skipping all the steps doesn't help, right? Like you if you're like, you got nothing and you win the lottery. That's why people that win the lottery like tend to like lose all their money, right? Because they don't know what to do with it.
They didn't earn it.
Exactly. They didn't earn it. They didn't do it the hard way, and then whatever, right? Versus the people that like grind it all the way through. They learned a lot of lessons along the way, right? And then when they finally do get a little bit of success, they know how to manage that better.
Yeah, well, for the most part, people need to go through the suck to understand that
100%.
I put the work in, and now I can appreciate what I did.
Exactly.
Versus, like you said, you win the lottery.
Yeah.
There's no real emotional or any ties to it that make you proud of.
I remember when I got my first job and I got my first paycheck, and then I saw it, and I was like, wait, where's all my money going? The taxes, this, that, and other thing. And then you're like, wait. Like maybe I don't want to buy that thing that normally I'd be like, whatever, don't matter, I'll buy it. But then you work hard and you're like, I got to work like another 3 hours, 10 hours to get this like thing that I wanted. Like, it's not worth it, right? Kind of whatever. Sure, and I think it kind of always, it brings your eye to, that hard work. It takes hard work to achieve stuff, and you can't just like throw it away.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're coming up towards the end of the podcast. Your website is WaterVault.
Getwatervault.com. So get, and then Watervault is one word, WATER, Vault, VAULT. Nice. So getwatervault.com. On there you can kind of see just some high level kind of statistics about water loss and what our product can kind of do. Ultimately, our goal is to help both residential and commercial businesses understand their water usage better, right? And really kind of that's our main kind of goal, is understand your water usage, and then with that data, you can make data-driven decisions on what to do next. And one of them may be, I got to replace this toilet flapper, or one of them may be, hey, you know what, maybe I'm going to replace these 5 toilets instead of these 100 toilets. And so that's kind of what we do.
Nice.
But it's exciting.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming, because when I first met you and then we started talking about all this stuff, the basis of this podcast is anything positive and working in a positive way. And this water conservation is something, like we've discussed, this whole podcast is something that's in the back of our mind that we don't really pay attention to. And now even me, just the little tiny things that I'm doing, it's like, oh, I got to turn that off, or I got to take quicker showers, whatever it is that you can save water, because water turns into energy turns into money, and then it's a huge...
We're a couple 100 million people in the country, right? And if we all of us save just a couple gallons a day, just imagine what that would be, right? And I think that's where the power of large, groups of people can make really positive impacts, and no one person has to go, take a 30-second shower. Yeah. We all just got to take a little bit less shower, 10% shorter shower than we all do, right? And we'll save a lot more.
Yeah, so for sure. Well, I hope everybody got a good bunch of gems out of this.
I hope so.
I appreciate you coming here, man. This was
love to do it again.
Fun. Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely
we'll
keep
come
tabs
back when we have a little bit more, some more stuff to share.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
All right, man.
All right, man. Hey, take it easy.
Right. All right, folks. That was the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it as much as I did recording it. There was a lot of information that I didn't know going into this podcast that I do now. I appreciate Hooman for coming on the podcast and giving us his little background story on how he got to where he is today. Learned a lot about water conservation. It's something that we don't pay attention to in the back of our minds. So I hope you guys just turn off your faucet when you brush your teeth, take a little quicker shower. Like he said, every little bit of every person can count towards tons and tons of water, literal tons of water. So, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as I did, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, tell your friends, anybody who might benefit from listening to this podcast. And I know I said I was going to elaborate a little more from the intro. The Block Gives Back is in a competition to win $2,500 for a positive impact or community engagement award. So the only way they win is if you go on Limelight Highlight. I shared the picture, or you can check out the Block Gives Back on Facebook, and they also shared the picture. All you got to do is like or love the picture, share it yourself. Each like, love, and share will be counted towards a point, and hopefully they win this $2,500 award. It'll definitely help the Block Gives Back give more to the community and the city we love so much, Philadelphia. And that's pretty much it. If you guys want to contact me, I can be reached at Instagram or Facebook at Limelight Highlight. Or if you want to send me an old-fashioned email, I'm at limelighthhighlight@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is LLHighlight. So be sure to write us, say what's up, give us some good news, share anything with us, and we will be sure to share it on the podcast. That's all I really have for today. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. Once again, it's Friday, TGIF. And last but not least, be humble, be helpful, pay it forward, and be the best you. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.